Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of Reese. I'm so happy to be back shooting more podcast episodes. This past month has been a bananas month for me. It's definitely been one of those, I just feel like I've been put through the ringer and also just incredibly proud of how I have handled myself. So let's get down to clown. The other day in the ARC, I was having a conversation about the audacity of a white man. And it cracks me up because we will see our angel numbers everywhere. Now, in the ARC, we are in Magnetic May, which is all about magnetic identity, magnetic messaging, magnetic content, just magnetic me, magnetic you. It's like, how do we utilize quantum physics and vibration in order to really implement that into our business strategy? You know, as spiritual entrepreneurs, this is what we're doing, where we believe in something bigger and higher than ourselves, and that we naturally understand that we are playing in the realm of energy. And when we play in this realm of energy, it's really all about how can we coerce and, even just control the energy that, it exudes outside of us, it exudes from the inside out to magnetize and be the vortex to the people that are meant to be in our spaces. Now, it's not just when I think about marketing and business, obviously there's not just the magnetic side to it. You can be absolutely magnetic and know how you gravitate people more towards you. But then when you have the business strategy side of it as well, and they're both working hand in hand, it almost becomes this oh my God, you become the vortex. You just become the black hole where people are just being sucked into your spaces. You become omnipresent in the online space, and where you're really just blowing up your business. So what I like to play, so the audacity of the white man. So let's get into this conversation right now. So if any of you are in the ARC, I love you and thank you for being here and listening to this podcast. But I'm going to get into this. We had talked about this a little bit in one of my trainings, and so I'm going to actually get into this now. So it's the audacity of the white man method. This is my method for really being magnetic. So, and the reason why I say it like this is just because of the fact that the first time I ever said this to someone actually was my assistant. Her partner is, an aspiring doctor. She's getting her doctorate. She is in med school, and I think there was a point in time during her, I think it was during her interviews that she was interviewing with hospitals, and just feeling like she wasn't good enough. And, being a female in a male dominated industry, as a lot of us are, being in the tattoo industry and also in the medical industry, it's it's male dominated. And so we almost feel as women, we almost have to feel we have to do a lot more to show that we're fucking capable. But, she had gone to an Ivy League school. She graduated from Ivy League school. She graduated with top of her class. She, has all these awards and all of these things underneath her belt that really makes her a fucking standout surgeon. And at the end of the day, she was doubting herself. She was how should I be in these interviews and things like this? And I remember telling her, I was you have to have I don't believe I told her this. I think I was telling Kayla this, and then Kayla relayed this message to her. She's you have to have the audacity of a motherfucking white man. If a white man had all those stats, top of the class, went to an Ivy League school, he'd be out with his dick swinging. He'd be out there plopping it on the table being hire me. You know what I mean? That's just and I gotta give it to men, because especially men that are entrepreneurs, CEOs, they just have the audacity to do some of the things that we as women feel we can't do, just because we're oh, but we have to be a certain way. Men or people look at women as docile and, quiet, and we need to be respectful, where a man, he's just out there being I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna own my gifts and take it or leave it, right? And this is where I think where sometimes in entrepreneurship as a woman in CEO, we kind of find ourselves being almost jealous of this. And I'm no, let's utilize this magnetism, because that's what it is. Having this audacity. It's building this audacity of I fucking see my gifts. I own my gifts. I celebrate my gifts. And here they fucking are. Let me slap my labias on the fucking table and just be like, here I am, bitches. Like, I am fucking great. And nobody's going to take that away from me. Yes, we are all masterpieces and a work in progress all at the same time. And so this is where we're really going to like really lean into the fact that we can utilize, we can still play the paradigm, we can still play the game of in a man's world and play by the feminine paradigm where we're like utilizing the rules and then we're breaking them, right? So it's like, yes, I'm going to have the audacity of a white man. So the other day, I said this to Kayla, this was like months ago. And then, sometime in the past week, like it was 2 weeks ago, I had gone to the gym and I was really extremely tired at this point. I am, dealing with like all the aftermath that happens with death. Like if you listen to my last podcast episode, like my father had passed, and what ended up happening, just kind of like was super draining for me. So I was going through this like period of really like no sleep and, dealing with a lot of these other things that are happening, and and a lot of really beautiful things and a lot of really crazy things. I believe in my last podcast episode, I was talking about being like magnetic to money. It's just like, oh my God, like my dad being a pirate and finding precious metals underneath the house, like literally buried underneath the house. And it's just like how all of these things happen in the sales of these little events, like these series of events that happened that kind of lead to, a really big gift. And that essentially is like how I lead my life. This is how I stay so magnetic, is because I look at everything as some sort of gift that's happening for me and through me versus just happening to me. And we hear that and we like the concept of that, but to actually embody that is your magnetism. Because at the end of the day, every experience, everything, every moment becomes a gift given to you by the universe to give you signs on the pathways you need to go. And so 2 weeks ago, I went to the gym. I was really tired. I was like, okay, I'm going to just, work this out. Like I love to move my body, especially when I'm tired or I'm feeling anxious, I'm not getting enough sleep, like this kind of stuff. Like moving my body really is helpful for me because it alleviates any anxiety. And then after I move my body, I go and I do meditation, and that like further gets me back into who the fuck I am. And it makes me remember who the fuck I am, because sometimes, I'm not always in there. I'm not always remembering. And right now at this point in time, like 2 weeks ago, I was very much in the mindset of like, do the bare minimum. You don't have to show up more than you need to. You don't have to show up at all. You can, just make sure you stay within lines of your contracts, like everything, especially in my educational spaces. It's like, this is the reason why I hold such loving, beautiful boundaries for myself, because every contract that I have and people sign for me, they know exactly when I'm going to be there, when I'm not going to be there. And if they get extra, which is normally what happens with me, is that like, I'll say I'll be there. I'll like, for instance, in some of my programs, I say that I'll be in the Telegram where I'm like answering people's questions once a week. Most of the time I'm in there like every day, but now I'm really holding myself to the boundary of like, no, I'm only going to be in there once a week. I'm only going to answer these things at this and this time, and just really giving myself some space and grace so that I can like really move through grief. So I am doing the bare minimum. I'm pretty tired, definitely have my cranky moments. And I get on this treadmill next to this older fella, and he looks like he's pretty upset that I took this machine next to him. And I was like, okay. And so, cause he was like, hey, actually that machine's for my friend. And I was like, is your friend here? Like, is he here? I was like, oh, okay. And he was actually, no, you could take it. It's fine. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I think he was a little perturbed that his friend was, his friend was late. So I was like, okay, so his friend's late, whatever. So I start running on this treadmill. And I'm only on there for like 5 minutes, especially when I'm at the gym, because I don't like running on treadmills. I just like to get my heart rate up and then like, let's get down to cloud. Let's go lift some weights. So that's normally what I do. So I get on there, I stop, I go to clean it. And then he goes, my wife, my wife has cancer, or I think she's going through cancer, something of that nature. This is what he says to me. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's right out the gate. Okay. Never spoken to this person before, never met him. I think I've seen him, but at the same time, I'm not paying that much attention to people around me. I'm just trying to get my shit done. And so I was like, okay, I'm so sorry to hear that. And he's like, yeah, her doctor told me that that 20% of the people in the world that have tattoos will die of cancer. So you should go get yourself checked out. And it was like the way he said this, I was like, oh, I see. Well, and I actually had just gone to the doctor, got my mammograms and got checked out, stuff like this, because, getting older, want to make sure I'm good. Never thought about like my ink being the cancerous part of, the journey, but okay, whatever. But I did tell him, I was like, you know what, actually did just get checked out. Like I'm clean bill of health. Like I'm healthy as a horse. He goes, you should probably get your face checked out too, because that metal in your nose is probably cancerous as well. And I was like, huh. And he goes, yeah, I was in biotech at Silicon Valley. And I was like, okay, is that right? Like in my mind, I was like, cool. And then I walked away. Oh my God. And this fucking irked me. I was seething. I was like, how dare this man fucking tell me some bullshit nonsense that seems so, like, literally so just, I would say, discriminating, that I was like, I just felt so discriminated against in that moment. I was like, all huffy puffy in the gym, and I was utilizing it as motivation, but I was so pissed. I was just pissed off. And I was like, how dare this motherfucker try, and you know what I mean? Because of the way that I look, because you're an older fucking man. And I'm like, you know what? This guy, I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't have any social cues. Like maybe he doesn't really understand, but I can tell his energy. He was like smirking at the end of it. Like he like got me. And I was just like, or maybe that's just in my mind, so I'm going through all the things, being a woman, a very spiritual woman, driven to succeed through mental health. I'm like, okay, let me go through all the stories in my body. I'm obviously angry. So there's a part of me that needs to put up a boundary with this person. And I'm thinking about all the boundaries I want to put on this person. But at the same time, I'm also like, I really don't want him running around rent-free in my mind. And I took him home with me that day in my mind and let him run rampant in my brain. And I'm you do those things where you're ruminating and you're just like telling him off in all the ways that you wish you would have and all these things, right? So I'm in this mode. I cannot see the light. I am too deep in the story. I cannot zoom out of it. I'm finding myself having a hard time zooming out, and I'm zooming in, zooming out and zooming in. I'm constantly being played by this experience. And so I'm like, all right, Reese, I'm not going to get played by this experience. How is this for me? And since I'm tired, since I am still moving through grief in ways, oh my gosh, I mean, we should have a podcast episode on what happens during grief. It's a myriad and a craziness of things that happen. And so it's like, so I'm moving through all these different emotions. I'm very irritated, and I'm just like, okay. And then, I even let myself cry a little bit, because I'm just like, what year do I live in where people like are so fucking rude and obnoxious to do something like that? And there was a part of me that like had to move through the fact, like, do I feel this way about myself? Do I still feel like I am discriminated against? Like, because I've had my moments where people have said some things to me that weren't so fucking nice. And I think there's a part of me that's just like, of course there's like this part of me that wants to one up a person, but then there's also this part of me that's like, it's not worth it. What's making me so angry here? And I couldn't figure it out. So a week later, I go, I'm going back to the gym. I see him. I basically avoid his ass. I'm just like, whatever. But of course, a week later after the incident happened, or a week or two later after this incident happened, I'm with Andy. Andy had been traveling at the time, and I went with Andy this time, and I'm like, there he is. And he's like, well, just don't run next to him. And I was like, duh, I'm not gonna run next to this guy. Fuck this guy, But of course, all the treadmills are fucking broken. This is my sign from the universe. He's all the treadmills are broken, except for the one right next to him. So I was like, you know what, Reese? And I had it in my mind. I remember I was like thinking of all the things I'm going to say to this motherfucker. I was like, you know what? He ain't going to get nothing on me. I got this vibe, right? And so I'm over there. I'm running on this treadmill. I'm running hard because I'm like, I'm trying to get out of my head and into my body. And if my dad, my biological dad had always told me, he's like, if you can think straight, you're not running hard enough. And so that's kind of like how I can gauge whether I'm like in like because I'm not in cross country mode, I'm not in like distance mode, I'm in like sprinting mode. So it's like we got to sprint, we got to get this heart rate up. So I was like sprinting like 8.5 miles an hour. I was going for it. I did it for 6 minutes. I got off, huffing and puffing, went to go get it cleaned, and he goes, lazy. This man, he goes, lazy. And I look at him and I'm like, like all the things that I wish I could have said in that moment, literally planning it out, fell away from me because I'm just not like a rude, bitchy person. I knew I definitely wanted to pull like my hood rat shit out. Like in my mind, I'm my hood rat, but outside, I'm just like, not worth it. Like, what am I trying to learn from this? And that's definitely what I'm so proud of with myself, because I'm like, what am I trying to learn from this? And so I just like, I had nothing. I rendered fucking speechless, was just so hard to do, right? For Reese. Like, you're not happening. Rendered speechless. So I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, I used to run cross country in college. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, so did I. And he goes, where'd you go? I was like, UCLA. He's like, I went to USC. Everyone from UCLA is trying to overthrow their chancellor because everybody's getting arrested. All the students are getting arrested there. USC graduated at the Coliseum. And I was like, awesome, dude. And then I walked away and he goes, lazy. And I started cracking up. Like, you guys, like maniacal, crazy, bent over laughing so hard because it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this motherfucker's my angel number. This motherfucker's my fucking angel number. How is that? Why do you think that, Reese? Well, because of the fact that the universe only gives you as much as you can handle. And I was literally at my breaking point. You know, I had gone through a lot of different things in April, a lot of different things, not only with my father passing away, but with disgruntled clients. We've had people canceling on their contracts, people not showing up. And it was just like, it felt like there were things stacking on top of me in a way that just made me feel like I am just kind of over it. Not to the point where I've ever wanted to burn everything down to the ground, but definitely to the point where I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna pop, you know? And then in that moment, I realized, I was like, oh my God, he's my angel number. The reason why I say that is because, number one, obviously God, universe, source, spirit, is not trying to give you too much. It's giving you exactly what you need because of what you asked for. I ask for every day evolution, up-levelment, 10x. Not just 10x in my income, but 10x in my identity. 10x in my ability to hold hard things, right? And so this was like in my last podcast episode where I was talking about how like my mantra is I move through hard things with ease. And so it's like when I move, because I know when I move through hard things with ease, that's when I 10x every single time. And it's funny because I had gone through all of those things and I had one of my best months last month in just my coaching in just my coaching business, which was $60,000 last month. I made $60K in cash last month. I had a $120,000 launch with Beyond the Stars, and it was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and I did this moving through all this stuff, and it felt so easeful to launch this program because I was so in love with it, and I was so in love with what I do. And it even further, the grief actually connected me so much further into my purpose and my passion, because I was like, I am doing this. I know that this deepens the level of the reasons why I'm doing this. You know, if you listen to my last podcast episode, I talk about how my father was diagnosed with schizophrenia and how mental health, you know, my mission in life is like focusing on yourself, having best relationship with yourself will bring you success and wealth in your business. If you focus on your spiritual and mental health, it'll literally be the reason why your success in your business blows the fuck up. Like the reason why your business blows the fuck up. That's what I believe. And so the more that I focus on me, the more that I focus on what's going on inside of me, the more my abilities to be capable to hold all the hard shit outside of me so that I can grow in the way that I want to grow exponentially is going to happen. And then this was just my evidence. He was my fucking angel number, as much as I hated it. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh my God. And here we go, like me, like having this moment of maniacal laughter, laughing my head off, not liking him. And I know that one day that he's going to say something to me where I'm going to literally hold a boundary where I won't need to practice it. It's just going to come out of my mouth as perfectly perfect as it needs to be. That's the reason why it's like, it doesn't ever happen when you want it to or expect it to. It's because you're leading with your head and not with your heart. But I remember to get back in my body. And I realized, I was like, he's my motherfucking angel number. The universe is letting me know that, like, hey, by the way, you're about to blow up in your business. Can you handle that kind of growth? Like, I'm asking for blow up in my business and blow up in my life. Like, just like, let's full send. Let's make millions. And, you know, the universe is literally like, can you handle it? Like, okay, you want that? Here, let's see if you can handle that kind of growth. Because it's not only going to, all the things that are happening in my life will coincide in the way that I treat my business. So let's say, like, you know, I think I had 4 major gnarly events that really rocked me in April, including this guy, because I only think of it as major as because of the fact that that it came and ruminated with me outside of it. Like, normally when things don't bother me, I don't take it with me. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. When someone tells me I'm ugly, I'm like, cool. And I don't go home with that, like, because I know I'm not ugly. Like, it's just not, I don't really give a shit what you think I look like. Like, it's all okay. But it was like this particular situation. So there was some truth in it for me that I needed to figure out. And I was like, oh, you know what the truth is? You know why I'm so upset with this is because I wish I had the audacity of a motherfucking white man that can just say what his fucking piece is and just think that he's actually maybe helping people or just say what's on his mind. And, you know, it was like, oh, I have a next level of my unapologetic expression. And that if I do want this up levelment, if I do want my business to fucking blow up, then I gotta have the audacity of a motherfucking white man. Like, I gotta do it. Like, respectfully. Okay, I ain't here to disrespect nobody. But in a way, I am. Because at the same time, people like me getting triggered by him, by what he says, by the nonsense he's spewing, you know, and all the things that he's saying and he's taking out of context, especially the things about the UCLA kids that are getting arrested right now because they are protesting for the war in Israel. And so it's like one of those things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, he is actually the epitome of what I represent. I represent unapologetic self-expression. And the way I get to that is through mental, spiritual health, right? Leads to success and wealth. So it's like unapologetic self-expression. The more you are, the more money you'll make. But with that means if we're trying to be magnetic, we have to live in the law of polarity. So living in the law of polarity means that I'm going to be equal parts attracting people and equal parts repelling people. That motherfucker is repelling me. But when I watch him, he is friends with every single person in that motherfucking gym. He is friends with everybody. He talks to everybody, whether they want him to or not, because you could see on some of these people's faces, they're like, please, bro. And they're just being nice to him because he's an old man. So it's just like, I have respect for the elders, but at the same time, I have no respect for people that are just fucking plain ass obnoxious and rude. So yeah, you know, one day I will say something and it'll come from my heart and it'll actually be meaningful to me instead of me just saying something just to be mean because I'm trying to get him back. Okay, that day will happen and I'll make a podcast episode about it. Mark my words. However, at this point right now, I'm looking at him like, oh my God, the reason why I'm so mad at this is because actually there's a part of me that wants to be like him. There's a part of me that like knows that if I'm truly going to be magnetic, I have to understand that I'm going to repel people a lot. And the things that I say are going to trigger people. And the things that I say are going to make people feel like I'm disrespecting them. When really that might not be my intention at all. My intention is never that. I don't know his intention. I don't know it. It doesn't feel good. But I don't know the truth of that. I can make shit up. I can make that little smile on his face a smirk like he think he got me. You know, I can make anything. I could turn it into any story I want to. Just like I'm turning it into the story of my angel number. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, what's more empowering for me? What do I want to choose? I don't know what his deal is. I don't know what his intentions are, but that's none of my motherfucking business. What's my business though is what I take home with me. And what I want to take home with me is the fact that I'm noticing that the universe is always going to give me love, never going to give me shit. And so if I'm experiencing this, then it's for a fucking reason. And it's for the uplevelment of my life, the growth in my human experience as a spiritual being. And so I choose to see this as an angel number because of the fact that he is doing exactly what I desire to do more of, which is be more fucking unapologetically self-expressed in a way that repels and attracts people all at the same time. And since I am so in tune with my message, my mission, my movement, it literally holds me. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, he is me in a weird way. I am him in a weird way. Like, I desire to have the audacity of someone that just speaks their mind and does it in a way that's just like, you can take me or leave me, and probably doesn't care at the end of the day. Doesn't really bother him that it's like, he thinks his 2 cents is God or whatever it is. Like, he just believes in what he believes in so wholeheartedly that he's willing to say it straight from his mouth in a way that comes out, that however it comes out, whether it be rude or not. And I mean, it's kind of gangster. It's kind of gangster. And so, like, I have a high respect for him. I have a high respect for the way that he's just himself. I don't respect the way that it's been said or comes across at the end of the day, but that's my experience of it. So I can hold space for my own experience, and I can take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for my own experience of his shit. He's got his own shit. I ain't a part of that shit. I don't want to be a part of that shit. So we look at this, and it's like, if you really truly want to stand out, identifiable, iconic, motherfucking tattoo brand, or just brand in general, then that means you are going to live in the law of polarity. And I've spoken about this before in one of my previous podcast episodes. You should check it out. It's like, if we're going to lead in polarity, which is what we're doing, and we want to be bigger and identifiable and people recognize us, then we are going to sometimes have to say things out loud that might make you cringe, that might make you feel like, holy fuck, people are going to hate me for this, but this is what I believe. And when you believe in something wholeheartedly, it holds you. And the thing is that for me, I see in him what I know I see in myself. And the thing is that I don't sometimes have the balls to say certain things, because I will go back and rewrite certain things to make it seem like I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I will go back and maybe not post that one thing because of the fact that I'm like, ooh, this could be a little too disruptive. I don't want to get people all upset with me. I don't really feel like having hate. But then here he is doing something that I'm just like, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, actually, thank you. You're making me realize that it's like, I can live through these things. I can hold myself through these things. Not only those 2 things, but also the fact that I do desire to continue to be the embodiment of my brand and be like, I live in polarity. And I'm not here to disrespect anybody, but I am here to live in my truth. And at the end of the day, that is going to be disrespectful to some people. They're going to take that in their own experience and turn it around and make a story around it that I'm talking to them, and then they become the victim of their own story, which is what I did when I was getting really upset with this fucker. So at the end of the day, we're learning a few lessons here, how to hold ourselves through hard things, knowing that these hard things are angel numbers and that they're actually providing us the pathways to exactly what we're fucking asking for, which most of us are asking for, like, whatever it is, like the success and the wealth and the freedom and the fulfillment and the, and the heart-led businesses that just blows up, and we impact a lot of people and we help a lot of people. We guide a lot of people through their own healing. Like, that shit is fire. And of course that's what we want. Of course that's what we desire. And at the end of the day, the only way we're actually going to get there is by moving through these hard things, is by being in polarity, by living in our truth, by being in so much conviction that you're willing to hold yourself even when it looks scary and you might be outcasted by the tribe and you fear that rejection. But at the end of the day, you still own it because you know you love you. You've got you. And that's what it is. So there's my little spiel on the method of the audacity of the white man. So go out there, think about your message, think about your movement, think about what it is you're saying, what it is you're not saying, and why you're not saying it, and how you can go out there and continue to honor what you've committed to be in. And that's to be in your whole authentic truth so that you can grow your motherfucking business. I love you guys. See you in the next episode.